Hi, and welcome to this episode of John's Model Kit Review. In today's fun classic kit review video, we'll be taking a look at the Hasegawa McDonnell Douglas RF-101 Voodoo. This kit is a true classic. It was originally released in 1967, and my boxing hails from 1972. This is Hasegawa kit number JS037. In this video, I'll give a little bit of the history of the McDonnell Douglas RF-101. We'll go through the kit instructions and we'll talk about any problem areas to watch out for during the construction phase of the build. We'll look at the detailing on the small parts that make up the landing gear and the cockpit of the aircraft. We'll look at the included clear parts and talk about the clarity and the fit of those. We'll also talk about the external surface detailing of the kit, as well as the fit of the major parts. And finally, we'll take a look at the color and marking options, and we'll talk about the quality of the decals themselves. If you like great model making content and in-depth model kit reviews, please consider helping to support this channel by becoming a member. Depending on the level of membership, members get early access to new videos, bonus content, etc. Your support is very much appreciated, and it will help me to continue to make good quality model making videos for you to enjoy. Looking at the history of the McDonnell Douglas RF-101C Voodoo. The RF-101 Voodoo is a development of the F-101 tactical fighter. Although the RF-101 is a reconnaissance plane, it retains the excellent performance characteristics of the fighter version. Instead of weapons, the RF-101 carries a battery of cameras in its long nose. Photos taken by RF-101s in 1962 showed the Russian SAM missiles and long-ranging rockets in Cuba. And in Vietnam, the MiG-21 and missile defenses were photographed by these supersonic camera planes. The RF-101 served with the U.S. Air Force as well as with the U.S. Air National Guard. The RF-101 was powered by two Pratt & Whitney J57 turbojets. These delivered 10,000 pounds of thrust dry and 14,880 pounds with afterburning. Maximum speed was 1,040 miles an hour, or Mach 1.5. Besides external fuel stores, the RF-101 carried a Fairchild KA-1 framing camera, one vertical and two side oblique Hikon KS-72A cameras, and one CAI KA-18 strip camera. These planes tackled their difficult missions completely unarmed. And just a personal note on the history of the RF-101, my father was a jet engine mechanic on the RF-101 during his tour of duty in Vietnam. I built this kit as a present for him and to honor him for his service. Looking at the kit instructions, in step 1, we are assembling the cockpit and the pilot figure, and we're installing that within the fuselage halves. We're also adding the air brakes to the rear of the fuselage halves. Since this kit has raised panel lines, you'll need to be extra careful with seam cleanup so that you don't eliminate the raised lines that cross those. The cockpit on this aircraft is very basic. Thankfully, the pilot figure is well molded, and with a little bit of detail painting on that, I think the interior looks fine through the closed canopy. I was able to get a good fit on the seam on the upper side of the aircraft. On the lower side of the aircraft, just aft of the nose gear, there is somewhat of a depression where the seam is, and that's hard to eliminate. In step 2, we're attaching the lower wing to the fuselage, and then we're attaching the upper wings to the fuselage as well. In addition, we're adding the elevators, the rudder, the cockpit canopy, and the nose cone to the aircraft, as well as the clear parts for the two oblique cameras. I was actually able to get a pretty good fit on all of these parts. I was impressed by the finesse of detail on the intake trunks for the engines. The canopy itself fits nicely. It is relatively clear. It has nicely defined framing on it, and I think it looks nice on the finished kit. In step 3, we're adding the landing gear to the aircraft, as well as the under fuselage fuel tanks and the jet engine exhausts and intake splitters. Looking at the detail on the landing gear itself, This is actually pretty nice for the scale. These are actually some fairly finely molded parts. I like the fact that there is wheel well detail on this kit. In step 4, we are adding the final bits to the aircraft. Those include the downward facing camera covers and the landing gear doors. I didn't have any problems with this step of construction. Moving on to the color and marking guide. This is very basic by today's standards, and I would recommend referencing some good quality photos of the RF-101s as you're painting and weathering the kit. I finished mine with a rattle can of Tester's Silver. I then weathered the plane with pastels and gloss coated it in preparation for decals. The decals themselves are old, obviously, but I was able to use all of mine to good effect on this kit. I didn't really have any problems with the decals themselves, but given the age of this kit, you may need to replace the kit decals with decals sourced from the aftermarket. Looking at the surface detail on the exterior of the kit, this is represented by a mix of engraved and raised panel lines. These panel lines and even the raised rivet detail is very fine, and it actually looks pretty decent on the finished kit. Even though this kit is a classic kit, the fit overall wasn't bad. I did have to use a little putty here and there, and I had to be careful with seam cleanup, but this has a much finer level of detail than other kits I've reviewed from this era. In conclusion, well, I really enjoyed this build. It was really cool to build a kit to honor my dad and his service in Vietnam, and so this one has a special place in my heart. I'd love to know what you guys think. If there are any RF-101 Voodoo fans out there, please let me know in the comment section below. I just want to give a shout out to all of my subscribers and channel members, and those of you who participate in the comment section of this channel. I really appreciate you guys. I couldn't do this without you, and thank you for your support. As always, I hope you found this video entertaining and informative, and until next time, model on.